Many of you have probably already taken a class from me, in which case you can largely ignore this presentation, but then it never hurts to repeat something for clarity's sake. This is going to be how I want you to turn your assignments in on Canvas. Now in the past, I've used my own name for student portion of this, and it's caused a great deal of confusion. So for this presentation, I'm going to make up a hypothetical student and a fictionalized class roster so that you can see how this works. Going forward, we'll be referring to students, or the student here, as Sidney J. Mead, which is actually the full name of my cat and my favorite futurist illustrator. So, let's look at this name, Sidney J. Mead. On campus, that person has a profile that ends just like yours does, or should, with the @students.mchenry.edu. So he is Sidney J. Mead, and probably is some variant of something like S.J. Mead 1967 @students.mchenry.edu. This is the way that he receives email notifications from the school, and would be the ID that he uses to sign up for the student version of the Adobe Creative Cloud account in order to receive his student discount rate for the subscription. Also very important. Anyway, the way that I see his name in my class roster in Canvas reflects his last name, Mead, but puts his first name, Sidney, in front of Mead. His friend, who sits right next to him in class, Charlie Martin, as you can see, he's on the roster just above him. Because I see this in my gradebook, I want you to do the following when turning in assignments. Always start by labeling your assignments with your last name first. In this case, Sidney would use just Mead, and follow that with an underscore and then his first initial, like this, Mead _S. Now let's say he wanted to turn in his first assignment for this class. He would do as follows: Mead _S _assignment _1 point. The reason we do it like this is for clarity as it regards computers, and we'll get to that here in a moment. First, alphabetizing your name lets me at a glance see if you've turned something in or not. Once I pull an assignment out of the gradebook in Canvas and place it into a folder, unless it is alphabetized, I might see something like this, which is an example from a color theory class of mine a semester or two ago. I had students turn in work to me in just about every imaginable way, and for the most part, the wrong way. As this slide demonstrates, they were labeled all over the place and consequently were very difficult to locate and grade. The third one at the top row didn't even have the person's name attached to it. If I hadn't gone looking for it in the Canvas grades files, I might not have found out whose it was, and in the future, I might not bother. If I have to work harder to find your file to grade it, you're going to get a lower grade. Pretty simple. We'll look at this file again at the end once I've had it sorted out the way that I've liked it to look. So, using the fictionalized class roster, I will show you how this shows up to me in Canvas. I might add that this is precisely the way that Canvas displays your names to me for attendance and for grading. First name and then last name. This is a fictionalized class roster of the same 20 students. Note that the last name is now first, followed by just a first initial with the underscore after each. This is the way that computers like to keep track of long strings of information. It also eliminates multiple first names like Tom, James, Peter, and Mary. Then, when you go to turn in assignment 1, do it this way. The .zip is the way that you will be turning in all of your assignments as compressed files. This way, you can include all of your rough sketches, preliminary work, attached images, and final files together in one file that is easily transferable via Canvas. Using Sidney as an example here, when submitting a zip file, your submittal would look like this. Now inside that zip file, he might have an assignment folder, or you may have a project folder and it should be labeled like this. He might be attaching images and they would be done like this. This way, when he attaches multiple images, it makes it easier to keep track of them rather than by some obscure naming protocol that doesn't mean anything. That way, when discussing his submission, we can talk apples to apples, images to images. And this particular case, a .psd file type and a .pdf file type, or a Photoshop file and a portable document format file. If he were to submit an Illustrator file, they would be submitted with a .ai file, which is the native file type for Illustrator. As you probably know by now, this allows me to see all of your open layers and work. And not to leave anything out, an InDesign file, which is a .indd file. Now, how you label your files is extremely important, not just to me, but should be to you as well. When you go to your peripheral drive, your thumb drive, or your cloud storage, you will want to be able to find things pretty quickly. When you get out of school and you're finally looking for a job or working for yourself, you don't want to waste a lot of time looking endlessly for files. You won't, and your employer certainly won't. If you're working with a large team on a common project, your teammates will kill you if you don't keep files organized correctly. Better to get into that practice now. As much as I hate the expression, time is money. The more time you waste, the more money you're likely to lose. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, there is an entire listing of do's and don'ts when it comes to file naming conventions. This page is a pretty good best practices listing of how to label files. Many of them will render your files easily found versus lost for hours, days, months, or even years. So then, here are those same files from the first slide, relabeled the way that they should have been submitted. Notice how much neater they are, and they are in alphabetical order, just the way I see your names in the class roster, but with the first initial as a drop cap. When I download these files out of Canvas, they're much easier to sort out. You're happy? I'm happy. Well, I'm happier than this.